with nothing more than basic arithmetic and a method he referred to as eyeballing it. The Thralor ship's reactor not only stabilized, but started running at 143% efficiency. "That's impossible," Representative Tessa shouted, her crystalline form flashing a fiery red. "It took our species 10,000 years to perfect the mathematical principles needed for quantum containment." Kral gave a grim nod. "And that's just the beginning. We've recorded 247 similar occurrences in the last standard month alone. Every time a human says, 'Hold my,' followed by the name of a beverage, they proceed to accomplish something that defies all statistical logic." High Counselor Liam's crystals dimmed, signaling deep thought. Could this be a mere coincidence? Maybe they have technology that we don't fully comprehend? "We've already considered that," Cthulhu replied, switching to another recording. "This footage is from last week. A human maintenance worker on Space Station Gamma 9. Pay close attention." The video showed a simple human named Ethan, dressed in a dirty uniform, walking toward a malfunctioning gravity generator. A Vixari engineer was explaining that recalibrating the quantum harmonics would take weeks. Ethan handed his drink to the Vixari and casually said, "Hold my beer, watch this." He then proceeded to kick the generator in 3 specific spots, defying every known law of quantum mechanics. Immediately, the generator began working better than it ever had. The chamber filled with a murmur of disbelief. A Cyanoth representative buzzed in confusion. Maybe we should consider banning these beverages." "We tried that," Cathal sighed. "The human just switched to saying, 'Hold my juice box,' and the results were identical." Counselor Liam raised all 4 hands, calling for order. "Admiral, what do you suggest we do about this?" "That's the issue, sir," Cthulhu responded. "It doesn't seem like the humans are doing this with ill intentions. They genuinely appear unaware of the reality-altering nature of their actions. Our Xenos psychologists are stumped. Some even think we should classify the entire species as low-level reality warpers." "Preposterous!" Representative Brittany shouted. "Next you'll be claiming they can do the same by saying, 'What's the worst that could happen?' or 'Watch this.'" Kral's scales turned a pale shade of green. "Actually, sir, about those phrases." The council chamber erupted into chaos as the weight of the implications settled in. Amid the noise and the electromagnetic disturbances, only High Counselor Liam noticed a small human cleaning worker entering to empty the waste receptacles. The human glanced at the turmoil, shrugged, and muttered to himself, "Hold my spray bottle. I bet I can calm them down." Liam felt a strange disturbance ripple through the very fabric of reality, and immediately called for the session to be adjourned before anything else impossible could occur. 3 weeks after the council meeting, the experimental warship Infinite Probability drifted lifelessly in space. Its cutting-edge warp drive had been reduced, as Chief Engineer Matthew Rodriguez would later describe, to a very expensive paperweight. Captain Michael of the Trilorn Defense Fleet paced nervously on the bridge, his bioluminescent patches cycling through shades of anxious purple. Their mission to test the new quantum fold drive had ended in disaster, leaving them stranded 17 light years from the nearest outpost. "How much longer until the engineering team can restore basic function?" Michael asked, his tone laced with worry. Lieutenant Olivia, his first officer, consulted her neural interface. "The quantum manifolds are completely misaligned, sir," she replied. "A conservative estimate would be 3 months of repairs at a specialized facility, if we can even get there, which we can't." Svan grimly finished her sentence. "Because we need a functioning drive to reach the facility that could repair our drive." The collective bioluminescence of the bridge crew dimmed in resignation. Then suddenly, the intercom crackled to life. "Hey, Captain, this is Rodriguez down in engineering. Mind if I take a look at your fancy quantum whatever?" Zulin's patches flashed warning red. The human engineer had been assigned to their crew as part of an exchange program aimed at fostering interspecies cooperation. So far, he'd spent most of his time tinkering with the ship's coffee machine to produce something he called espresso. Engineer Rodriguez, the quantum F-drive is the culmination of 7 species combined technological advancements. It's not something you can just casually look at, Zulin began, but Rodriguez cut him off mid-sentence. "I already took a peek at the schematics. Matthew Rodriguez casually remarked. Pretty cool stuff. Reminds me of my cousin's vintage hover car, always breaking down that thing. Several bridge officers gasped at the casual comparison. Lieutenant Biss's antennae twitched in horror. Sir, we can't possibly hold my coffee. Rodriguez cut in with a grin, his voice carrying that unmistakable human tone that set Zulan's survival instincts on high alert. Before anyone could react, Rodriguez bypassed 3 critical safety protocols and rerouted power from the quantum stabilizers. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. Rodriguez, those stabilizers are vital for preventing reality fractures, Zulan barked. Rodriguez shrugged. Now they're just fancy surge protectors. Watch this. The next 47 minutes would later be officially classified as Incident 0 in the growing database of human-induced impossibilities. Rodriguez, humming Sweet Home Alabama, proceeded to break every known law of quantum mechanics. He used a standard wrench to adjust quantum-locked components that should have required specialized temporal tools. He diagnosed complex quantum fluctuations by pressing his ear to the drive housing and simply saying, "Yep, there's your problem." At one point, he even kicked the main quantum regulator, claiming it just needed a little persuasion. The bridge crew watched, horrified, through the engineering cameras. Lieutenant Biss had to excuse herself when Rodriguez used a rubber band to hold together 2 pieces of equipment responsible for controlling local spacetime geometry. Almost there, Rodriguez called out cheerfully. Just need to there we go. Try it now. Captain Svan stared at his instruments in disbelief. Not only was the quantum fold drive now operational, but it was running at 130% of its theoretical maximum efficiency. This is impossible. The quantum harmonics alone should Svan trailed off, struggling to comprehend what was happening. Oh yeah, I tweaked those a bit, Rodriguez replied nonchalantly, wiping his hands on a rag as he strolled back to the bridge. They were all fancy and complicated, but I figured what you really needed was more of a whoosh than a womb, you know what I mean? He grabbed his coffee cup, took a sip, and grimaced. Oh man, it's cold. Mind if I try upgrading the coffee maker next? I bet I could make it brew using quantum entanglement. Captain Svan's bioluminescent patches cycled through colors that were previously unknown to his species. I'll need to report this to command. Sure thing, boss, Rodriguez said with a grin. Just let me know if anything else needs fixing. The artificial gravity generator's been making this weird noise, and I've got a few ideas. The captain quickly cut him off. No, I mean, that won't be necessary. Please just sit quietly and drink your coffee. Rodriguez shrugged and returned to his station. Meanwhile, Svan secretly activated his personal recorder. Captain's log, supplemental. It has happened again. The human did the impossible thing. After witnessing today's events, I find myself in agreement with Admiral Kral's assessment. When a human says those cursed words, "hold my" followed by the name of a beverage, the fundamental laws of the universe seem to bend, twist, and become mere suggestions. I'm watching Rodriguez attempt to balance a spoon on his nose at the engineering station. I'm submitting a formal request to have all beverages removed from the ship, though I have a sinking feeling that won't help. End log. In the following days, the news of the incident spread like wildfire through the galactic community. The Quantum Physics Council demanded an immediate investigation. The Department of Temporal Mechanics launched a new division dedicated to studying the so-called hold my beverage effect. 3 different species even updated their emergency protocols to include variations of don't let the humans near it. Meanwhile, Matthew Rodriguez remained blissfully unaware of the stir he had caused, his attention fully focused on his latest project, trying to make the ship's food synthesizer produce authentic Texas barbecue. Captain Svan, on the other hand, had already submitted his retirement paperwork. The Galactic News Network's emergency broadcast interrupted standard programming, its AI anchor speaking in a tone designed to convey maximum urgency. Breaking news. As human-related incidents continue to defy explanation, we now take you live to the Proxima Peace Conference, where tensions between the Krithari and the Elithar have reached critical levels. The footage shifted to the Grand Conference Hall on Proxima Station. Diplomat Joshua Brooks, Earth's newest representative, stood between 2 opposing armies, robots and organic beings, all armed to the equivalent of teeth. "Your silicon-based discrimination ends today," shouted the Alithar leader, Ambassador Ava, a sentient fungal network. "Your carbon-based privilege blinds you to the truth," countered Digital Commander Unit 9, its chrome surface reflecting the harsh lights of the room. Brooks, wearing what he affectionately called his lucky Hawaiian shirt, glanced between the two groups and sighed. He turned to his assistant, a nervous Zalithian named Kyle. "Hey, buddy," he said, "hold my martini. I've seen something like this in a movie once." The entire diplomatic corps collectively gasped. 3 different species immediately began evacuation procedures. Brooks, unfazed, stepped to the center of the room, pulled out his personal entertainment device, and uttered the words that would later be enshrined in the Galactic Historical Archives. "Friday, drop that sick beat I've been saving." What followed was immediately classified as a Level S reality distortion event. Brooks, a middle-aged human diplomat with 0 formal dance training, proceeded to initiate what he called a dance battle, a battle that somehow incorporated both silicon and carbon-based musical traditions. He was quantum tunneling between dance moves that, according to horrified physicists, should have been physically impossible. "And he's dabbing," one physicist reported in disbelief. The cultural implications alone could collapse entire societies. But somehow, it worked. Within 20 minutes, both robots and organic beings were attempting to replicate his moves. By the 30-minute mark, impromptu dance teams had formed, mixing silicon and carbon-based life forms. By minute 45, Ambassador Ava had somehow sprouted what appeared to be a disco ball. Unit 9 had developed spontaneous RGB lighting. The peace treaty was signed amid what Brooks casually called the electric slide, but that was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, reports flooded in of similar events. On Space Station Omega, a routine docking procedure quickly escalated into a crisis when the station's artificial gravity failed. As the station spun wildly out of control, threatening to tear apart, amateur human pilot Emma Cooper was returning from her very first flying lesson. "Traffic control, this is Emma. I mean, Starship Minnow," she radioed. "I think I can help, but first, hey kid, hold my soda." She handed the drink to her 14-year-old nephew sitting in the passenger seat and then performed a series of maneuvers that her instructor would later describe as physically impossible, mathematically improbable, and visually traumatizing. Using only her small civilian vessel's tractor beam, basic thrusters, and what she called "that trick I learned parallel parking in Boston," Cooper managed to stabilize the entire station. She then docked it flawlessly on her first attempt, a feat that even AI pilots, who typically required thousands of tries, could never pull off. When asked later how she pulled off this seemingly impossible feat, Cooper simply shrugged and said, "I had to. My favorite coffee shop's on that station." And that wasn't the only oddity. On Mars Colony, a human gardener told his Martian colleague, "Hold my smoothie," before somehow managing to grow tropical fruits in an Arctic environment, breaking both botanical and thermodynamic laws. Meanwhile, at Andromeda Research AB, a human intern casually told someone to "hold my energy drink," before solving a mathematical proof that had baffled the galaxy's greatest minds for centuries. He did it using what he called basically the same math as figuring out how to split a pizza bill. As the incidents multiplied, panic began to spread. The Galactic Science Academy created a new scale to measure human-induced improbabilities. The Security Council drafted entirely new protocols, specifically for dealing with humans and their beverages. 3 separate species began requiring their diplomatic staff to carry emergency beverage containment units. The Tsarin Psychological Institute even published a study titled "Understanding the Human Hold My Beverage Phenomenon, a Study in Controlled Chaos." The conclusion was simple. We give up. Even the machines weren't immune. The Krithari reported that their AI had started requesting virtual beverages to hold just before attempting impossible calculations. In response, they had to implement a galaxy-wide patch to prevent what they called human mimetic contamination. The final straw came during a routine survey of an uninhabited solar system. A human geologist named Daniel Turner, after uttering the fateful words, "Hold my thermos," somehow managed to teach a previously unknown silicon-based life form how to play poker. The silicon beings turned out to be excellent poker players. but their insistence on weekly game nights severely disrupted the sector's mining operations. In an emergency session, the Galactic Council tried to make sense of the situation. "It defies all logic." Representative Plick, still clearly traumatized by the dance battle incident, shouted, "How can one species consistently break the laws of physics, probability, and common sense?" Admiral Kull, now sporting several new gray scales, presented his findings. "We've analyzed every incident, and while the pattern is clear, it remains completely incomprehensible. When humans encounter a problem our greatest minds consider impossible, they don't see it that way. They simply hand someone their drink and solve it, no questions asked." "But how?" demanded High Counselor Liam. "How are they able to do this?" "Our leading theory," Cathal replied grimly, "is that they're not accessing any kind of special power. They simply never learned that these things are supposed to be impossible, so they just go ahead and do them anyway." The council chamber erupted into worried murmurs, which soon turned to full-blown panic when a human janitor entered, carrying a strange beverage called a half-calf soy vanilla latte with extra whip. The session was adjourned immediately. Later that day, the Galactic Intelligence Agency officially upgraded humanity's threat classification to chaotic good with beverage-activated reality distortion field. A new galaxy-wide protocol was put into place. The moment a human reaches for a drink, all nearby entities must evacuate immediately or prepare to witness the impossible. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans went about their daily routines, blissfully unaware that they had become the galaxy's most unpredictable source of controlled chaos. In fact, at that very moment, somewhere in a small town in Wisconsin, a human was saying, "Hold my beer. I bet I can teach these visiting aliens how to play mini-golf." The galaxy collectively held its breath. Classified Research Log. Project Beverage Location. Advanced Xenical Research Institute. Principal Investigator, Dr. Allen, Quantum Mind, Ph.D. in Improbability Physics. Status: Increasingly baffled Day 1. We've assembled the finest minds from across the galaxy to study the hold my beer phenomenon. Our team includes quantum physicists, probability mathematicians, xenopsychologists, and one very confused barista. Our initial hypothesis: humans have somehow weaponized casual drinking containers. Day 7. First experimental trials have proven problematic. We attempted to recreate the conditions of documented human successes. Professor Zix, 427, our most accomplished quantum engineer, held a container of fermented grain liquid and announced, "Hold my beer." He then attempted to repair a malfunctioning fusion core. Results: 3 singed tentacles and 1 very radioactive beer. The fusion core somehow developed sentience and is now demanding employee benefits. Day 15. Expanded research to include linguistic analysis. Dr. Quantum Mind's log. We've observed that the phrase must be spoken by a human. When other species attempt it, the universe simply laughs at us, literally. We've detected quantum particles vibrating in what can only be described as a mocking frequency. Day 23. Breakthrough. We've found a clear correlation between the degree of impossibility and the casualness of the human's beverage choice. Example case studies. Coffee usually results in complex engineering solutions. Beer, highest probability of physics-defying stunts. Energy drinks, mathematical impossibilities become probable. Juice box often involves teaching alien species human concepts. Wine, diplomatic miracles. Water, surprisingly dangerous. One human held their water bottle before reversing a black hole's rotation. Day 30. We attempted to synthesize artificial human confidence by creating a quantum probability field generator that mimics the exact mental state of a human saying, "Hold my beer." Results: the machine gained sentience, requested someone to hold its power cable, and promptly escaped the lab. It was last spotted teaching calculus to a band of space pirates. Day 45. New research protocols were established following yesterday's incident. Note: never again allow human test subjects to mix energy drinks and coffee. The resulting temporal paradox is still causing the cafeteria to serve yesterday's lunch tomorrow. Day 52. Team morale is rapidly deteriorating. Dr. Quantum Mind's log. We've now documented 10,427 instances of this phenomenon, each one more impossible than the last. Yesterday, a human asked someone to hold their smoothie, then proceeded to explain quantum mechanics through interpretive dance. The worst part? It actually made sense. Day 60. We failed to replicate the conditions with other phrases. Maintain possession of my carbonated beverage yielded no results. Temporarily store my liquid refreshment only made the task harder. It turns out there's something uniquely powerful about the casual nature of the phrase hold my beer. Day 74. Major breakthrough. Our pattern recognition algorithms have pinpointed key components essential to the phenomenon. For it to work, the human must be told that the task is impossible. At least 3 safety regulations must be violated. The beverage must be at risk of spilling. There must be at least one exasperated authority figure present, and someone must be recording the attempt. Day 90. We've created a comprehensive database of incidents, categorized by beverage type and impossibility level. Some notable examples. Case 4721. A human mechanic fixes a faster-than-light drive with a rubber band and a paperclip. Beverage, Mountain Dew. Case 5890. A human diplomat ends a 1,000-year war by inventing a new card game. Beverage, Fruit Punch. Case 6234. A human gardener grows roses in the vacuum of space because they looked sad. Beverage, Iced Tea. Day 103. Dr. Quantum Mind's final log entry. We've reached a conclusion. Humans aren't accessing any special power. They simply don't understand that these things are supposed to be impossible. So they just do them. It's as if they never got the memo. More worrying, however, is that this effect appears to be spreading. We've documented cases of other species succeeding at impossible tasks simply by thinking, what would a human with a beard do? Based on these findings, I'm recommending Project Beverage be classified as Level 10 incomprehensible. Some things in the universe just aren't meant to be understood, like humans or their beverages. Personal note, I'm retiring. I'm going to open a bar. If you can't beat them, serve them. The report was filed in the Galactic Archives under Things We've Given Up Trying to Explain, right between cat physics and why Earth music makes everyone dance. Meanwhile, in the Institute's cafeteria, a human intern stared at the malfunctioning food synthesizer that had stumped repair crews for weeks. He handed his soft drink to a nearby researcher and uttered the now infamous words, "Hold my soda. I think I see the problem." The researcher quickly issued the standard alert. Notice, human beverage event in progress. Please evacuate all non-essential personnel and disable nearby reality monitors. Probability distortions imminent. This is not a drill. 3 minutes later, the food synthesizer was not only fixed, but somehow had acquired the ability to create perfect quark burgers in zero gravity on Tuesdays. Dr. Quantum Mind's retirement paperwork was processed in record time. The Galactic Council's emergency alert system activated for the first time in 10,000 years, its ancient speakers creaking with disuse. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Reality collapse event detected in Sector 7. High Counselor Liam's crystals pulsed with barely contained panic as he reviewed the data. A quantum singularity had somehow gained sentience, developed a craving for dark matter, and was now consuming entire solar systems like a cosmic buffet. How long until it reaches populated space? He demanded. Admiral Cal's scales had turned a ghostly white. 12 hours, sir. We've already lost the Kina cluster. The entity seems to be burping up star systems. The galaxy's greatest minds assembled within the hour. The Krithari's supercomputers ran trillions of variables through their equations. The Alyther's most powerful psychics tried reasoning with the cosmic anomaly. The Time Lords from the Kronos Institute attempted to fast-track time around the anomaly, hoping it would die of old age. Nothing worked. Conventional weapons have no effect, reported Lieutenant B. The entity seems to be laughing at our antimatter torpedoes. The Mathematics Guild's latest solution? Liam asked, his voice filled with hope. They tried dividing by 0 to cancel it out, Lieutenant B replied. We lost 3 quantum calculators, and 1 created a small universe where everything is made of pasta. Desperation mounted as the entity continued to advance, now juggling neutron stars and using black holes as appetizers. The Galactic Council watched in horror as it belched up the remains of a solar system, which reappeared as a perfect replica made entirely of cheese. Then, from the back of the emergency command center, a voice broke the silence. "You know, I bet humans would love to try fixing this." The room fell silent. Admiral Krall's tail twitched nervously. "Surely you're not suggesting—" "Think about it," Dr. Allen's quantum mind continued, having come out of retirement for this crisis. "This is exactly the type of impossible situation they thrive on. It's massive, it's ridiculous, and everyone's convinced it can't be fixed, but they'll want to hold beverages." A representative from the Physics Guild sputtered, "Exactly." 20 minutes later, Earth received its first official galactic distress call. The message was simple. Universe breaking. Need humans. Beverages permitted. The response came immediately. Humanity's unified reply, "Cool, road trip." Within hours, a hastily assembled team of Earth's most questionably qualified problem solvers arrived at Galactic Command. The team consisted of Tony Miller, a plumber from New Jersey who once fixed a quantum leak patched up with duct tape. Dr. Wong, a physicist who tackled mathematical proofs through interpretive dance. Jack Thompson, a part-time bartender who claimed he was really good at managing difficult customers. Maria Gonzalez, a retired roller derby coach who swore she had some killer ideas about momentum. The council watched in a mix of horror and reluctant hope as the humans took in the situation. Their response was anything but reassuring. "Yep, that's a big one, all right," Tony said, taking a sip from his coffee. "Reminds me of that blocked drain in the Murray case. Remember that, Jack?" "Ah, yeah," Jack said with a nod. "That was something else. But you know what? I think I've got just the solution for this one." The humans huddled together, occasionally stealing glances at the view screen that showed the cosmic entity now trying to juggle quasars. Their conversation was peppered with phrases that made the assembled scientists shudder. "What if we tried to—" "That's not technically impossible. My cousin did something like this once. Oh, I saw this in a movie." Finally, they turned to face the council. Maria stepped forward, holding what looked like an ordinary cup of green tea. "Okay, we've got a plan. Fair warning, it's really stupid." "Will it work?" Liam asked, his voice desperate. "Oh, definitely not," Lisa chimed in with a bright smile. "It violates about 17 fundamental laws of physics, which means it'll probably work perfectly." Jack raised his hand. "Quick question, though. Anyone got a really big speaker system and, maybe some disco lights?" What followed was so outlandish that it was later redacted from most historical records. The description alone caused several physics textbooks to spontaneously combust. The humans enacted their plan, which involved using the Galactic Communication Network as a massive speaker system, transforming 14 quantum computers into what they called disco balls, and somehow teaching the Krithari's AI to breakdance. They named it the universe's biggest happy hour special. The moment of truth arrived as they faced the cosmic entity. The humans lined up, each holding their beverage in perfect synchronicity. They turned to Admiral Cathell. "Hold our drinks," they said simultaneously. The Admiral's claws trembled as he accepted the various containers: coffee, beer, tea, and something called an Ega slushie. Then they did it. They challenged a reality-devouring cosmic entity to a dance-off. "This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen," muttered a quantum physicist under his breath. "That's exactly why it's going to work," Dr. Allen replied with the wisdom of ages. And work it did. The entity, confronted with the combined forces of human audacity, horrendous dance moves, and the sheer ridiculousness of their plan, paused its cosmic buffet. It watched, fascinated, as 4 humans defied every law of physics, probability, and common sense. Maria called out the moves. "Okay, everyone, Macarena but in 5 dimensions." Tony stopped trying to moonwalk through time, and the entity, possibly for the first time in its existence, looked confused. Then, intrigued. Then, impossibly, it began to dance, too. "It's working!" Lisa shouted, somehow managing to perform the robot dance in non-Euclidean space. "Quick, Jack, offer it a drink." With a flourish, the part-time bartender pulled a tail shaker from thin air and began mixing what he dubbed a pan-galactic gargle blaster. The drink, glowing with mathematical impossibility, shimmered in the air. The entity took a sip and instantly transformed into a regular patron at Jack's bar. The crisis was over. Reality settled, and the galactic community breathed a collective sigh of relief. Admiral Krall turned to Dr. Allen, his expression puzzled. "I still don't get it. How did they know this would work?" Dr. Allen gave a tired smile. "They didn't. That's their secret. They never know if something will work. They just try it anyway. But that's not how the universe is supposed to work." "Tell that to the humans," the doctor replied, watching as the team collected their beverages and began teaching the now docile cosmic horror entity how to play darts. "I don't think they've read the manual." Official Galactic Council Decree Date. Star Date 24743. Subject: New Protocols regarding human beverage events. Following the resolution of the reality-consuming entity crisis, which was unexpectedly solved by a surprisingly successful bar now operating in the Andromeda Galaxy, the Council hereby establishes the following protocols. Humanity is officially classified as a controlled chaos species, with the subclassification Reality Beverages pending. All spaceports are now required to maintain a minimum stock of human beverages for emergency purposes. The phrase, "Hold my," followed by any beverage name, is now officially classified as a Class A Reality Alteration event. Standard evacuation procedures must apply. High Counselor Liam turned to the Assembly. "We must handle this situation." Admiral Cthulhu, now wearing several new medals, including the "I Survived Holding Human Beverages" commendation, cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, about the humans. Yes, they've started franchising." The council chamber erupted into chaos. On the main screen, footage showed Hold My Beer Consulting LLC opening offices across 3 galaxies. Their business motto read, "If it's impossible, we'll find a way to do it anyway." Even more concerning were their promotional materials. Got an unsolvable problem? A reality-bending crisis? An angry elder god who won't return your calls? Hold our beverages. We've got you covered. In just the first week, the company had accomplished the following: taught quantum physics to space dolphins, reverse-engineered a black hole to power a coffee maker, solved an ancient puzzle by turning it upside down and poking it, established diplomatic relations with a species that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, primarily by challenging them to karaoke. "We can't stop them," Dr. Allen reported to the council. "Other species are starting to adopt their methods. Just last week, a Vexari asked someone to hold their tentacle juice before redesigning their entire planetary defense system using nothing but interpretive dance and bubble wrap." The council's new response protocol was simple. If a human says, "Hold my," either run or record. There is no middle ground. Meanwhile, Earth established its first galactic emergency response team, humorously nicknamed the Beverage Squad. Their headquarters featured a colossal statue of a coffee mug, engraved with the words, "To the impossible. Hold my drink and watch this." Bob, the former cosmic horror entity, was their biggest fan. He even sponsored an annual reality-bending event known as the Hold My Beer Games. The grand prize? A golden drink holder that supposedly existed across all dimensions simultaneously. Life in the galaxy gradually adapted to this strange new reality. Species learned to spot the telltale signs. Humans grinning at problems labeled impossible, the casual exchange of beverages, the phrase, "Hey, watch this," and anyone who brought up that time my cousin did something like this. But as always, peace was short-lived in a universe inhabited by humans. Just 6 months after the new protocols had been established, a new alert came from the edge of known space. "Sir," Lieutenant Bick reported, her voice shaking, "we're picking up a temporal anomaly. Early readings suggest it's a Tuesday that thinks it's a Friday." High Counselor Liam's crystals flickered and dimmed. "Have we consulted the experts?" "The Mathematics Guild says it's beyond repair. The Time Lords have flat-out refused to get involved, and the Physics Council representatives are currently hiding under their desks." "And the humans?" Liam asked, bracing for the inevitable. Before Bick could answer, the door slammed open. A human woman entered, wearing a lab coat covered in what looked like temporal graffiti. She was holding a large cup of something that sparkled with dimensional instability. "Dr. Ruby Johnson," she announced, flashing a grin. Temporal mechanics and part-time bass guitar player. Heard you've got a day of the week throwing a tantrum. But it's completely impossible, one physicist sputtered. Ruby's grin grew wider. She turned to Admiral Cathal, who was already reaching for his beverage with an expression of resigned inevitability. Hold my quantum-stabilized espresso, Ruby said casually, pulling out what could only be described as a temporal tuning fork. Saw something like this in a cartoon once? The galaxy seemed to collectively hold its breath. Somewhere in the distance, Bob, the former cosmic horror entity, began mixing drinks, as if this was just another typical Tuesday, or maybe Friday, in a universe gradually getting used to humanity's unique brand of impossible problem-solving.